we go back to the 1990s, your predecessor Brian Mulroney and his promises to Quebec were what led to the alienation of the West and the rise of the reform movement. Do you not see yourself putting that back in play? We know that Alberta is so angry these days, but you've been there only once this campaign.
I've actually been to Alberta more than once. But on that, it's quite clear that under Justin Trudeau, region has been pit against region. Justin Trudeau has divided Canadians, he's divided provinces. He's failed to stand up for the types of big ideas, the big projects that can bring this country together. The commitments I've made to Quebec flow from a conservative principle of decentralization. We respect the provincial area of jurisdictions, we respect federal areas of jurisdictions. We are offering Quebecers a single income tax return like every other Canadian enjoys. We are offering them specific infrastructure projects that other provinces will also be able to, will also get support for their projects as well. So I reject the notion that in any way one province is treated differently under the Conservative platform. And I would again point to that my vision of a national energy corridor will bring this country together. We'll get Western Canadian energy to Eastern Canadian markets, getting us off of foreign oil, stopping the practice of tanker after tanker of foreign oil coming into our markets, while at the same time giving Quebec an opportunity to share its hydroelectricity with other provinces. Alors, je ne suis pas en accord avec
I don't agree
prémisse.
With your premise.
Nous offrons le Québec et les
We
Québécois
are offering Quebec and Quebecers the same thing as what other Canadians can have, a single tax return, as well as infrastructure projects in Quebec with the same funding that will be available to other provinces. And I am the only one with a vision of this country, the vision of an energy corridor that will bring Western energy to the eastern part of Canada and will allow Quebec to share its hydroelectricity.
I want to stay on Alberta for a minute. You've often cited Justin Trudeau's environmental policies as being behind the downturn of the oil industry in Alberta and the economy there. But yesterday, there were several thousand people on the streets of Alberta, people whose livelihoods are presumably connected to the oil industry in some capacity. And what they were asking for was more aggressive action on climate change. And so what's your message to them about your platform?
Well, we are the only party with a real plan for the environment, with a plan that will actually give Canada a chance to achieve its Paris targets. We're talking about taking the climate fight global, lowering global emissions, doing more of what Canada can do so well with at a lower rate of emissions. It doesn't make any sense to shut down Canadian industries only to see that production move to countries with lower environmental standards or without the same access to clean technology that we've developed here. So our plan will allow Canada's energy sector to grow, the people of Alberta and Saskatchewan get back to work. All provinces benefit from that, whether it's the manufacturing sector, whether it's federal government revenues that are able to support important services, while at the same time lowering global emissions. We're also going to put more money back in the pockets of Canadians with our green home renovation tax credit, which will lead to lower energy bills, lower consumption, lower CO2 emissions.
Good morning, Christy Kirkup with the Globe and Mail. Warren Kinsella was apparently hired to do your party's dirty work in attacking Maxime Bernier with the condition that the contract wouldn't be traced back to the Conservatives. How do you think the public will perceive this?
We don't make comments on vendors that we may or may not have engaged with.
So to that end, did your party hire Mr. Kinsella to attack the Liberals?
As I said, we don't make comments on vendors that our party may or may not have engaged with.
Yes or no, did you hire Mr. Kinsella?
As a rule, we never make comments on vendors that we may or may not have engaged with.
Bonjour, Monsieur Scheer. Sur Monsieur Kinsella,
Mr. Scheer, with respect to Mr. Kinsella, is it true that you hired Mr. Kinsella for a seek and destroy plan to destroy Mr. Bernier? We do not make comments on any contracts that we late. Is it true? We do not comment on any contracts that we may have let to other suppliers. Why is that? It's an internal party issue, so we don't comment as to whether or not we have such contracts. Mr. Scheer, in the same vein, you are saying that Mr. Trudeau is not transparent. Why are you not being transparent on this issue? Did you or did you not hire this firm to destroy Mr. Bernier's party? We do not comment on contracts that we may or may not have let. Would you please comment on the Premier of New Brunswick, Mr. Haig, a progressive conservative, that said that Quebec is the spoiled child of the Federation when it comes to equalization, and that its equalization should go down if it refuses a pipeline or energy corridor? Well, I don't believe that Quebec is a spoiled child. I think every province has its own situation and its own challenges, and I think it's the responsibility of a Prime Minister to govern for all Canadians, and that's the reason why I want to adopt a cooperative approach as opposed to the confrontation we see with Justin Trudeau, who's fighting with the provinces.
I reject the notion that Quebec is a special child or whatever the term may be. I believe that all provinces have their unique challenges, their unique issues. It's the role of the Prime Minister to address all issues that affect all Canadians, that affect all provinces in a way that brings our country closer together. That's the manner that I will take, a cooperative approach, respecting provincial areas of jurisdiction. And that is in sharp contrast to Justin Trudeau, who is fighting with provinces, attacking premiers during this campaign, in court with other provinces. So Canadians can be quite sure that they'll have a government under my leadership that helps strengthen national unity and strengthens our confederation.
Good morning, Mr. Scheer. Olivia Stefanovich with CBC News. Have you and or your party hired Warren Kinsella's firm to do anything this election campaign?
So as a rule, we don't make comments on vendors that we may or may not have contracts with.
Why can't you be transparent about that?
It's just we don't offer comments on contracts that may or may not exist, on vendors that we may or may not have a relationship with.
You just claimed that Trudeau is openly talking about a coalition, which is not true. And you also repeated in Quebec yesterday this GST claim, which you're saying that the NDP and Liberals have this plan to increase the GST. Trudeau and Singh both said yesterday that's not true. So as Prime Minister, how can Canadians have confidence that you will be truthful?
Well, he is talking about staying on as Prime Minister in the event that he doesn't win the most seats. He's talking about a so-called progressive government. He is failing to be transparent about which taxes he will raise to pay for getting the NDP's support. When you look at their two platforms, we can see quite clearly that this will be a coalition that Canadians can't afford. In order to pay for their promises, they will have to raise the GST or raise personal income taxes or make cuts to important social services. And if Justin Trudeau truly believes that Canadians want this costly coalition, then he has the obligation to tell Canadians today exactly which taxes he will hike to pay for the NDP's support.
It's clear that when you look at the platforms of the two parties, that a coalition between the Liberals and the NDP will cause a massive increase in the deficit, and they will have to raise taxes, either the GST or personal taxes, in order to do what they want to do. So it's up to Justin Trudeau to clearly explain to Canadians which taxes will go up under his coalition with the NDP.
Mr. Scheer, you say you want to restore ethics to government, you want to be transparent. I find it astounding that you can't answer that basic question about whether you hired this company or not. Why does the great privacy or secrecy about this? Why can't you be transparent with Canadians about this contract?
As a general rule, when it comes to
what's the
party
general rule?
matters,
What is the general rule?
when it relates to party matters, we don't comment on contracts we may or may not have with vendors.
Why?
It's we don't offer comments. We
That's
don't make
just not
comments
acceptable, Mr. Scheer.
on
You should be
contracts
able to
that may or
answer
may
this
not
question.
exist.
You should be transparent about
Well,
this. Why can't you answer this question?
When it comes to internal party matters, when it comes to contracts that may or may not exist, we don't offer comment.
Bonjour, Monsieur Scheer.
Good morning, Mr. Scheer. You say that Quebec is treated no differently from other provinces, and yet you appointed a Quebec lieutenant. You crisscrossed Quebec. You presented a specific platform for Quebec. Have you abandoned the Quebecers now? Well, no. We are proposing things to Canadians across the country. Now, of course, there are issues that specifically affect Quebec, and we clearly made commitments to Quebecers, saying that they could have confidence that we would introduce a single tax return. That doesn't apply to the other provinces because every other province has only one. We will also support important projects such as a third link in Quebec City. I also appointed a Quebec lieutenant, and I think it's important that Quebecers know that a Conservative government will be there for them, be there to defend the Quebec nation, and that the Quebec nation can expand within a united country. And I think it's clear that Quebecers do not want a coalition between the NDP and the Liberals, which will be very costly and increase taxes. A Conservative majority government will respect Quebec, lower taxes, and make life more affordable. On the other hand, there's the Liberals that will cost them more. Now, I asked you a question yesterday about the third link, which is clearly your priority in Quebec, but you've also said that the tramway project will go forward. Each project costs $4 billion. How can you justify spending that much money in Quebec when you want to balance the budget? Well, we have shown Canadians exactly how we will balance the budget while we also respect all the infrastructure projects that have already been approved. That's our commitment. The projects like the tramway will go forward. Also, we are the only party that will support the third link. Justin Trudeau says that the third link does not exist. The Bloc and the NDP are against it. We are the only party with Quebec MPs that will allow the third link to be achieved.
Mr. Scheer, what would you be prepared to compromise on to gain the support of another party in a minority situation?
I think at this point in the campaign, with 2 days left, the burden is on Justin Trudeau to explain exactly which taxes he is going to hike or which big projects he will kill to earn the NDP support in a coalition. We've been very clear with Canadians as to what our platform contains, and I've been outlining my 100-day action plan. Justin Trudeau has not. He has not indicated what that deal might look like. Jagmeet Singh is calling for the cancellation of the Trans Mountain project. Will that be something that will be a condition for the NDP Liberal coalition? In order to pay for their $40 billion worth of deficits, which taxes will go up? These are the questions that Canadians are asking themselves and asking the Liberals before they make their vote on Monday. And if Justin Trudeau really believes that Canadians want an NDP Liberal coalition, then he needs to have the backbone and the courage to tell Canadians exactly which taxes he's going to hike to pay for the NDP promises.
You're both running to be the next Prime Minister. Why is it incumbent on him and not incumbent on you to say what you'd be willing to compromise in order to form government in a minority?
Well, we are asking for a strong mandate to be able to implement the things that we're outlining. Our 100-day action plan that we've been going over the last few days speaks to exactly how we're going to make life more affordable, leave more money in the pockets of Canadians. On the contrary, Justin Trudeau is obviously contemplating what he might have to do to earn the NDP support. We know that will lead to massive new deficits and higher taxes to pay for it. This will truly be the coalition that Canadians can't afford. And so in the next few days, we're asking Canadians for a strong mandate so we can lower taxes, put more money in the pockets of Canadians so that Canadians can get ahead.
Mr. Scheer, is it ethical for a party in the middle of an election campaign to hire a skullduggery firm to potentially dig up dirt on an opponent? And if the Liberal Party did this, would you be demanding transparency from them?
Well, we're not going to make comments on contracts that may or may not exist.
I'm not asking about a contract. I'm asking about the principle of digging up dirt on your opponent and hiring a firm to do it secretly.
And I said we're not going to make comments on contracts that may or may not exist or with vendors that we may or may not have.
So Warren Kinsella, if it's true your party hired him, was also responsible for spreading misinformation and encouraging misinformation around Justin Trudeau's time at West Point Grey Academy. Your party put out a press release basically encouraging those rumors. Should people infer that it's possible that your party helped spread misinformation and work with him to do so?
We have been very open and clear with Canadians about exactly what we are going to offer as a government. We will lower their taxes. We will lower their taxes. We will put more money in their pocket. We will get back to balanced budgets over a responsible period of time. On the contrary, what they don't have from Justin Trudeau is a clear explanation of what an NDP Liberal coalition would look like, which taxes he would raise to pay for the NDP's promises. That's what Canadians have a right to know in the next few days before Election Day.
Chris Selly from the National Post. The federal government provides all kinds of supports for businesses and industries, trade tax breaks, loans, grants that add up to much more than $1.5 billion. What's your definition of corporate welfare?
What we said when we made this announcement was that we would apply a lens, a filter, a criteria to corporate welfare to eliminate government funds, taxpayers' funds, from going to highly profitable companies, companies that use that money to invest in other countries or that use the money to reward shareholders or CEOs.
Can you give me some examples of corporate welfare under the Justin Trudeau government that you would not?
Well, $12 million to Loblaws, for starters. A multi-billion-dollar family, a multi-million-dollar operation received $12 million of taxpayers' money. That's an easy one.
Mr. Scheer, Michael Couture from Global National. In your speech, you said that Justin Trudeau is openly discussing a coalition with the NDP. Besides some line that he's saying about electing a progressive government, other than that, what proof do you have to that claim that he's openly talking about it, because he has not to this point?
Well, he's talking about ensuring that he stays on as Prime Minister if he does not win the most seats. He's talking
That's
about...
still not a coalition.
Well, it's up to him to explain exactly how the relationship might work. It's up to him to explain exactly which taxes might go up. We've indicated to Canadians that just to pay for some of the deficits that they will rack up, the GST would have to go from 5 to 7.5%. They do have other options. They could raise personal income taxes. They could cut important transfers for social services. But one thing Canadians can be sure of is that the deficit will be higher and taxes will go up, and this will be the coalition that Canadians cannot afford.
So throughout this campaign, you have talked a lot about Justin Trudeau losing the moral authority to govern. Through the last 2 days, you have put out a lot of assumptions without any proof, and today you're not answering a question, which is a very simple one, over whether or not Warren Kinsella was hired by the Conservatives. What do you say to Canadians that you lack the moral authority, since you cannot answer these basic questions?
We have always been open and transparent with Canadians as to what we will do as government, and that's exactly what we're going to continue to do. We're going to show Canadians in the next few days exactly which taxes we are going to lower to leave more money in their pockets so they can get ahead. And that is in stark contrast to Justin Trudeau, who has an uncosted platform, who only half of his platform commitments have PBO costing behind it. And he is refusing to come clean onto what types of arrangements he will work with the NDP, which taxes he will increase, or which projects he would kill in order to earn NDP support. I note, again, Mr. Singh is talking about cancelling the Trans Mountain pipeline as a condition. A star Liberal candidate is saying that there will never be another pipeline built under a Liberal government. He needs to be open and transparent with Canadians about that before Monday, before Canadians go to the polls. Oh, as a rule, we don't make comments on contracts that may or may not exist or vendors that we may or may not have.
Katie Simpson, CBC News. Mr. Scheer, you're standing here and you're refusing to deny that your party hired Warren Kinsella to dig up dirt on your opponents. At best, you're peddling in misinformation when you attack the Liberals about planning to legalize hard drugs and planning to implement a secret tax on the sale of their houses. And yesterday, you completely fabricated a claim that the Liberals and the NDP would raise the GST with absolutely zero proof to back that up. On October 22nd, when you wake up, how comfortable are you with the campaign you have run?
So first of all, of course, I disagree with much of with your premise. It is quite clear that Liberals will have to raise taxes to pay for their deficits. That is as night follows day. Taxes go up when deficits are allowed to balloon and last for so long. And when you look at the fact that the Canada Revenue Agency has started to collect information on the sale of primary residences, and when you look at the fact that this is something that a senior-ranking Liberal MP was advocating for, when you look at the fact that this was a policy item that was suggested, it is reasonable for Canadians to worry about Justin Trudeau breaking promises or doing things that he said he wouldn't do during election campaigns, because we saw that in 2015 and we saw how that turned out. What I'm saying to Canadians today is that under an NDP Liberal coalition, those deficits will balloon and taxes will have to go up to pay for it. If it's not the GST, it's up to Justin Trudeau to say which taxes it will be. But it is clear, in order to pay for the NDP promises, Justin Trudeau will have to raise taxes. He has the obligation to tell Canadians which taxes he will raise.
Are you comfortable with the campaign you've run?
Every morning we have gotten up and we have put forward a positive platform offering hope and opportunity for Canadians, helping to make their life less expensive, more affordable, helping Canadians achieve their goals and aspirations. And I'm very confident that as we get to work to implement our tax cuts, our policies that will lead to more jobs, greater economic growth, a better quality of life, I will be very excited to implement that, and Canadians will be very excited about the money that will be returned to their pockets. In contrast, Canadians know that an NDP Liberal coalition will balloon that deficit and raise taxes to pay for it. And again, it's up to Justin Trudeau today to explain exactly which taxes he is going to raise to pay for the NDP's promises.
But just one last follow-up, Mr. Scheer. What is the rule that you have here that you can't say which contractors you're working with?
We just don't comment on the contracts that we may or may not have.
Is it a rule you just made up?
We don't make comments on contracts that we may or may not have or vendors that we may or may not have engaged with.
And again, one of my colleagues asked if Liberal leader Justin Trudeau had said that, would you accept that answer?
It's we don't make comment on contracts that we may or may not have. Thanks very much, everyone. Merci beaucoup. On ne lâche pas.